Hey everybody, it's Galmadex and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we have another premiere draft of Strixhaven. We are 1 week away from the Arena Open on May 8th, so I'm very excited for that. But until then, I do want to get a couple more drafts in of this format for sure. It has been super fun all around, and here we have a pretty fun Mystical Archives card, but not one you can super draft around. If you get any Grinning Ignis, you can try to storm off, but generally Tendrils of Agony is not going to work particularly well in this format. I suppose it does work well with the Witherbloom Magecraft cards. I mean, how often do you get to draft around Tendrils of Agony? Not often. I don't think this is actually the best pick here, but there are some silly things that we can try to do. So this is 100% not what I would take if I'm just strictly trying to win, but it seems like a way we could try to have some fun. We have Mage Hunter's Onslaught as a great removal spell that's only in one color, so that's a pretty easy first pick. There's also the Pestilent Cauldron and Restorative Burst being a pretty good value card for a Witherbloom strategy. But we'll start off with the Tendrils of Agony, see if we can't get some big Magecraft payoffs, and try to do a big Storm sort of thing, and get value off of every copy of Tendrils that we get to cast. That could be fun. So here we don't really have anything that combos super well with Tendrils of Agony, although there is Environmental Sciences, which works perfectly in pretty much any deck in this format. You're always going to have a Learn card or two, and just having every Learn card in your deck be able to grab you a land when you need it is really good. So I like Environmental Sciences a lot, and it is a pretty high pick because you can take it and you are always going to end up playing it. So it really doesn't matter what you end up with. Shadewing Laureate is like a fine flyer. Trying to go for the Silver Quill Flyer aggro strategy can be good when it's like super open, but if anybody else is taking flyers, this is not that great. Quintorius is pretty slow, but can definitely go off, making some large spirit tokens. Frost Trickster is just a super solid blue flyer there. I'm just going to take Environmental Sciences. Throw that into the lesson board. Cody, Vociferous Codex. We can go for a Tendrils of Agony Cody Storm deck. Yeah. I've played the format enough now. I'm going to start going for some really weird strategies, things that I definitely wouldn't have been confident in drafting early on, and still am not confident in drafting, but things that I think would be pretty fun. So we've got Cody and Tendrils of Agony as our first picks, and Environmental Sciences in the lesson board to help us splash things in, help with our mana fixing if we do want to try to do like a big 5-color strategy or something like that. I think with Cody, Eureka Moment's pretty strong. Draw 2 cards, put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Other than that, we could stick to black here with Hunt for Specimens, which is a great learn spell, and Eye Twitch as well is a solid learn card. Blood Researcher is a good Witherbloom card if you get a bunch of life gain. Pest Summoning is a fine lesson. Quandrix Pledge Mage would be good with Tendrils of Agony, trying to get a bunch of counters off its Magecraft effect. I think I'm just going to take a Eureka Moment here. Now, so the thing about Cody is, while Cody does add 1 mana of every color, you don't have to play 5 colors to go with Cody. It's just that you can more easily than usual because of the fact that Cody adds every color. So we don't have to like aggressively draft campuses and stuff and try to do 5-color unless we really want to, and I kind of want to here. This pack isn't that great regardless. I think Fractal Summoning's a pretty good lesson, and Overgrown Arch is a pretty solid defender there that can learn later on. So these are my favorite picks outside of the campus. I guess there's also Needlethorn Drake, which is good. But I'm just going to take a campus. Let's go for like a 5-color Cody Storm deck. Let's just really do some crazy stuff. Burying Books is very, very good with Cody, because you can cast this for only 3 mana and still use the Cody effect. Although I guess with Cody, you don't get Cody's sort of cascade effect unless you're spending the 4 mana to get 5 mana anyway, so it really doesn't matter that you get a cost reduction on Burying Books, but still definitely very good with Cody, and a very solid removal spell regardless. So I think we could be like Quandrix as our core, maybe splash in some black for Tendrils, or maybe we just don't end up playing Tendrils here, just be a Quandrix deck. We'll see how things progress. Cram Session's pretty good with Cody. One of the things that you can do very well with Cody, because the way that Cody works is your instants and sorceries, grab a cheaper one out of your deck. So you spend a 5 mana instant or sorcery, and then you exile from your deck till you hit a 4 mana one, a 4 mana or less. So then once you hit a cheaper one, you cast that for free. So the cheap learn spells like Cram Session are really good with Cody, because you can use a cheap learn spell, and then the lesson that you grab out of your sideboard with your cheap learn spell can be something like the elemental summoning, like a 5 mana 4/4. Then next turn you play that 5 mana 4/4 and you just spin the wheel again, grab another Cram Session. So I think Cram Session it's decent in a lot of decks, but in a Cody deck it can be really good. And now Expanded Anatomy does not really excite me in a Cody deck, nor does any of the combat trick stuff like Infuse with Vitality or Infuriate. Reject is just not a very good counterspell in this format. I think countering instants and sorceries is usually more important. Now that the format has kind of stabilized, it's just how it seems now because of all the learns and lessons and all that. I'll just take a Pigment Storm here, just a fine removal spell if we do end up doing like 5-color stuffs. And I don't really want to play any of these cards. I guess Reconstruct History could be a good combo with Cody. Return an artifact, enchantment, instant, and sorcery, and Planeswalker from your grave to hand. That is if you're going really deep. If you're going really deep on the Cody strategy. Return your Cody, a Burying Books, and a Pigment Storm from grave to hand. Sure, I don't think we're a Pestilent Cauldron deck. You gotta be pretty heavy into the Witherbloom grinding strategy for that. And we could play a Campus Guide here to help with mana fixing. 2 mana for 2/1, search for whatever basic land we need, reveal it, put it on top. With Cody, you can't cast permanent spells as long as Cody's on the battlefield, but Cody isn't a companion or anything, so Cody doesn't actually restrict your deck building in any way. So we can still run permanents in our deck, it's just anytime that we have a Cody on board, we can't play them. So you still do want some creatures in your deck. I'll take a Campus Guide here. Spell Satchel. If we go completely all in on the Cody strategy, get a bunch of counters on this, and then start drawing cards on this. This seems really slow, even if every single card in your deck is an instant or sorcery. That being said, the other options are like Defend the Campus, I guess. Destroy creature to power 4 or greater, which doesn't seem awesome. Tome Shredder doesn't seem good here. I'll try a Spell Satchel, maybe. Oh, I'm definitely going to take a Pest Summoning here. I want more lessons for sure. Even if they're not fantastic, this is a lesson that I can cast for 3, which will then search my deck for specifically something like Cram Session, which will be awesome. Or like Study Break, they're another 2 mana learn card. Pretty important with Cody. So we can grab a 3 mana lesson and then cast it and grab another 2 mana learn spell. I'm not going to play either of these. There's a 2 mana learn spell. This one's really bad, but could be a thing. Witherbloom Command is the rare. This seems just not great and limited, to be honest. We probably just want to cultivate, like almost definitely, because the mana fixing is going to be super good for this strategy. We're probably going to be at least 3 colors here, like green, blue, red or something. But yeah, cultivate is just so good in this format. Witherbloom Command I'm really unsure about because it can only kill small stuff. You can mill 3 cards and then return a land from your grave to hand. You can destroy a non-creature that costs 2 or less. You can give a creature -3/-1. Like, you can kill small things or do a little small amount of life drain. So it's probably good in like aggressive decks that you want all of these effects in the early game. Just get things out of the way, drain them some life. But in more controlling decks like what we're probably trying to build here, this doesn't seem good. Grab a Cultivate there. Ooh, Leyline Invocation is great. Any spells that create a creature are really good with Cody, because then you can still play creatures without, casting permanent spells. So Leyline Invocation is great, although Elemental Summoning might be more important because of the fact that we can learn for it, and then it's a 5 mana spell for spinning the Cody wheel. So then after casting Elemental Summoning, if we're casting it off of Cody, we can grab something that costs 4 or less. Yeah, Elemental Summoning is probably more important, but Leyline Invocation is a card we definitely want to keep our eye out for if we can. Emergent Sequence seems great. It's good mana fixing as well as a creature. So that's two things we want all in one, although Pop Quiz would be very solid in this deck. As would Inkling Summoning for the sideboard. Although that's kind of hard to cast, but we can cast it when we have a Cody out. Yeah, I'm thinking Emergent Sequence or Pop Quiz here are both pretty solid picks. I'll pick up an Emergent Sequence. Now, what do we got? Another Elemental Summoning. Pretty happy to see that. There's also Frost Trickster, Quandrix Pledge Mage, Demon Goth Titan, Master Symmetress. We'll just go all in on Cody here and grab an Elemental Summoning. It's going to be a weird deck. I don't think we want to play First Day of Class. We probably don't want to play Spell Satchel. It's going to be an interesting one to build for sure. Leading into that potential Cody 5-color strategy. Cultivate should help a lot. Emergent Sequence should help a good amount. Now we have Academic Dispute is a 1-mana learn card, so even if we cast a 2-mana spell off of Cody, like a Cram Session, we can still search for something, which is pretty big, because usually you can't hit like a 1-mana spell because you just don't have them. I think I will take an Academic Dispute here, but we could play a Negate. Don't think I'd love Mage Duel in this deck, but it would be fine. We do have like those 5-mana 4/4 elemental summonings. Take the Academic Dispute here. Get a 1-mana card to search for. Field Trip seems pretty great. It doesn't search for any basic land, which isn't awesome. It only searches for a forest, but it does learn when you do it. Although there's also Fractal Summoning, which is another great lesson. We've got a good amount of learn cards going on right now. We have a little bit of ramp. Eureka Moment, Cultivate, Emergent Sequence. We actually have a good amount of ramp for now. 2, 3... 3 learn cards right now. Do want more learn. Yeah, I think I want more learn pretty badly. I'll take a Field Trip. Introduction to Prophecy is a solid lesson. Creative Outburst is a ton of mana, so I'm not feeling that. Archway Commons could be fine for like the 5-color stuff, or there's a Scourge Colony, which can be good in these rampy strategies because it's a 2-mana 2/2 on turn 2 that also blocks flyers. And once you get to the late game, it's a 4/4. I do like Scourge Colony quite a bit. Although, take the Archway Commons here. Help the mana for sure. Got 2 creatures in this deck. Mentor's Guidance is not going to work. So I guess a Spirit Summoning it is. Or Reduce to Memory. I don't really want Reduce to Memory. I'd rather have Spirit Summoning, because Reduce to Memory we need double white for. Spirit Summoning we can cast off of a Cody. Just period. Could you solve the equation in this deck, actually? Search for an instant or sorcery from your library, put it into your hand, then shuffle, so we can grab like a Cultivate or something. That could actually be good for this kind of weird deck here. This might be the one time I actually try out Solve the Equation, see if it works. Super happy to pick up a Leyline Invocation. That is perfect. Really expensive sorcery that grabs us a massive creature. It's perfect with the ramp stuff we have going on, as well as the Cody stuff we have going on. We have the Guiding Voice or the First Day of Class for another cheap learn card, or just an Amplimancer. Just take a cheap learn card. If we just have a million cheap learn cards, it doesn't matter that our deck has like no creatures, because we can just consistently grab Pest Summoning or Spirit Summoning turn 3, so we just have a turn 3 creature almost every game anyway. We could try Teach by Example. We could also try Letter of Acceptance. That seems more important here since we are splashing in a bunch of stuff. Getting a man of any color there. Probably not going to end up playing that Defend the Campus, but you never know. Same with the Sudden Breakthrough and the Revitalize. Mind's Desire, really go for the storm. We could throw Mind's Desire back in here and throw the Tendrils of Agony in. This seems just not playable in Limited, though, because even if you storm off with this, you probably just hit a bunch of basic lands on the top of your library. Yeah, it seems hard. We probably have to go for Will and Rowan here, which make all of our instants and sorceries cost 1 less, which is so good in this deck because we have so many instants and sorceries. And yeah, I mean, this is an insane pack to open. 2 mythics, Rowan and Will, or Mind's Desire. I think we gotta just take Will and Rowan here, make our instants and sorceries cost 1 less, and Will can shut off some creatures with the +1, can draw some cards with the -3, and Rowan... It doesn't take long for Rowan to hit her ultimate, and her ultimate is insane, where every instant and sorcery you cast from now on, you can spend 2 extra mana to just double it. So that seems pretty good. Alright, Igneous Inspiration is incredible. 3 mana for 3 to any target, so it's a cheap removal spell that also learns. So that's fantastic. If we could wheel another Leyline Invocation, that would be beautiful. That would be chef's kiss here. But if not, there's like an Arcane Subtraction. And if not that, there's a Campus Guide or a Quandrix Pledge Mage. We'd be happy to play either of those. Ooh, Dream Strix might be strong enough that we're just going to run that. Although a Eureka Moment... 3 mana, 3/2 flyer, when it dies, learn. Pretty good. Well, it doesn't really combo perfectly with what we're doing, whereas Eureka Moment is so good with what we're doing. I'm going to take a Eureka Moment over that rare, which is going to be weird. Also, over the dual land, we're not taking a ton of dual lands, which isn't great, but hopefully we can just run green as the core of our deck. We've got a good amount of colorless cards. Just run green as the core and use the green to splash in our other colors, hopefully. Mage Hunter's Onslaught. We do want some more removal. I'm pretty sure we don't have a ton right now. Igneous Inspiration. Defend the Campus. Burying Books, Pigment Storm. Yeah, we don't have a ton of removal. We probably need this Mage Hunter's Onslaught, although it is kind of hard to cast. Needing double black there. Take another Letter of Acceptance, but hopefully that wheels, because most decks don't really end up using a card like that. I will take another Eureka Moment, although there is an Expel, which is going to be good removal. Take another Eureka Moment, I think. Just slam a bunch of those down. No removal in this pack, so I think we just take a Lesson, although it's not one we're likely to cast often. This is a deck and a half here. Ooh, another Cram Session. Another Pigment Storm, though. We have Pest Summoning, Spirit Summoning, 2 Elemental Summoning, Expanded Anatomy, Environmental Sciences. Yeah, I'm going to take Cram Session here. It's going to be just so helpful to grab our Environmental Summoning like every game. So we're not going to have a boatload of removal, but hopefully we can just spam out a bunch of summoning spells and just play way too many creatures of our own. Overgrown Arch could be good here. An 0/4 that just sits there gaining us life and blocking things. Although we're low on removal, so another Defend the Campus wouldn't be bad. I'm already kind of thinking of cutting out the white, just being like green, blue, red here to help with mana. I'm actually going to take the Overgrown Arch over the Prophecy thing there. We did wheel the Letter of Acceptance, but there's also the Expel. Maybe I don't get rid of the white because of stuff like Expel I could throw in. I don't know. I'm going to take the letter. Leyline Invocation Wield. Pop that right in there with our triple Eureka Moment to ramp into it. Oh, I'll easily scoop up a Witherbloom Campus as well. Happy to see that. Spirit Summoning for another Lesson, so we have more creatures available. Cogwork Archivist for just a big old dork that blocks things off. And is completely colorless, so it doesn't matter how our mana has gone. And Thrill of Possibility we could play as a little filtering spell. Discard something that we don't have the mana for currently to draw into something else. Throw the Spell Satchel back in for now, because it does look like our deck is going to be very low on creatures. It's going to be almost all instant sorceries. Alright. Let's make this deck work. What do we do here? That's the real question, Cody. Cody, what do we do? Alright. Gotta cut 8 cards. So I'm thinking of just cutting white altogether. We have 1 white card and it's Reconstruct Memory, or Reconstruct History now, so we just need 1 Plains to grab off of Cultivate and Emergent Sequence and Environmental Sciences and Campus Guide. Yeah, because we have all of those different ways to search for basic land, I like having at least 1 basic of each color. I probably only want the 1 Plains. I probably only want the 1 Swamp as well, because the only black card we have now is Mage Hunter's Onslaught. And we could cast that off of a Letter, Archway Commons, Witherbloom Campus, and Swamp, that kind of stuff. I guess double black is kind of a hard sell. That is the only black card. We would probably rather run Defend the Campus than Mage Hunter's Onslaught. Just because while it doesn't kill as many things, it's so much easier for us to cast, only requiring 1 mana of its color. Like, we have a Witherbloom Campus, but I still feel that, like, double black is a hard sell. And if we cut black altogether, then we could just, like, still have white in here if we want it. And then we're just those 4 colors. Definitely want a ton of forests, I think. That's our most important color. This is going to be Will more often than Rowan, I think. Rowan does, like, damage to your opponent. It doesn't do anything to creatures, so Rowan seems pretty bad for this deck. Unless we're getting that ultimate off consistently, which is going to be hard to do, because our opponent can pretty easily just chip at Rowan when we're not playing creatures. I think Will definitely seems better, so we want to treat this as a blue card, generally a 5-mana blue spell there. We do have Pigment Storm, which requires double red. We're not playing a Sudden Breakthrough, that's just a pump spell, a little combat trick. Is there anything we're definitely not playing? Probably not a Guiding Voice, because we'll often, if we want to cast this to learn, we'll have to use it on our opponent's creature, which is pretty bad. Get rid of the Guiding Voice. And then, yeah, if we're getting rid of Guiding Voice, we could get rid of Study Break just because we only have 2 white cards in the deck, so we can make it just a really easy 1-card splash there. I don't know if we need Thrill of Possibility when we have a ton of Learn cards that are giving us quote-unquote card draw, because like every time we learn, we're drawing cards. We have 3 Eureka Moments, which all draw us 2 cards. We don't really need Thrill of Possibility. Probably don't need the Spell Satchel either, although it's cute, and I've never played this before. It does look so slow and just generally pretty bad, even though we are the exact deck that would ever use this card. I think even in this deck, this seems just probably bad. I do like Solve the Equation in here because we just have so many random little instant sorcery effects. We could solve the equation to get our big creature when we need it. We can solve the equation to grab one of our few removal spells when we really need them. We can solve the equation to grab Reconstruct History to just start casting a bunch of stuff again. Like, that seems pretty cool for this deck. At the very least, it does seem fun. One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 learn cards, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lessons. Nice. Pretty perfect. I'm going to get rid of the Spell Satchel here. 2 more cuts to go. With the cheap learn spells, Dispute, Study Break, Double Cram Session, all 4 of these can grab Environmental Sciences, so I'm not as excited about Campus Guide fixing our mana. We also have Double Letter of Acceptance fixing our mana. So we'll get rid of the Campus Guide. This is going to be a fun deck to play. Like, the biggest thing when you just look at this sort of deck, the biggest question, the biggest concern is like, well, what do you do when you don't draw Cody? But the thing is, when you have like enough good learn cards that are cheap like this, when we don't draw Cody, we just learn off of these to grab, 3 mana 3/2s, 5 mana 4/4s, use those to stall out the game while we draw extra cards, and then try to make it to Cody there to go for crazy value. But even if we don't make it to Cody, we can just try to outvalue people by having a ton of learn spells. We have like cards that draw multiple cards, reconstruct history, bringing a bunch of stuff back. Just try to win the game through like card advantage with this deck, when we're not just bombing them out with Cody or Will. I don't know what the last cut is here. It might be solve the equation, but it just looks like a fun card to play in draft, which is kind of how we started here, taking Tendrils of Agony. We're just going for the fun draft today. I'm not going to cut one of the Eureka moments with double Leyline Invocation. That seems really good. I'm not going to cut a letter, because our mana is still going to be iffy. Just always. Maybe we just go all in, cut Overgrown Arch just to have only Cody as a creature in here. Maybe the Archivist. Study Break's a lot more powerful on the aggressive, but also just having a bunch of lessons and having them being pretty important to grab because we don't have creatures without the lessons means I think I still want Study Break in here. Although because white is our biggest splash, it's going to be hard to get that white mana early on. Just have it on like turn 2. Yeah, I guess I can cut the Study Break for that reason. Now let's get the mana fixed. We have 11 green cards, 5 blue, 5 red, 2 white, 2 black. Go down to 1 plains for sure. For Defend the Campus, Reconstruct History. Definitely adding in some forests for that. Five red and 5 blue. We've got the Eureka moments in blue, which are important. Solve the equation in Burying Books. In red, we have Dispute, Inspiration. Rowan I don't even really count as red, and then Pigment Storm. So we kind of just have 4 red cards, but one requires double red, Pigment Storm. I think I want another blue source in here. Oh, I've got Quandrix Campus. So we have equal blue and red right now. We have 4 blue sources, 4 red sources. Yeah, it's probably good. With all the fixing. Cultivate, double letter, environmental sciences. I'm so glad I just second picked in environmental sciences because I don't think we saw a single other one all draft. And that's so important for this deck here. Alright, here we go. We're gonna do the Cody thing. See if we have any better sleeves for Cody. I don't think there are any Cody sleeves, or if there are, I don't have them. What is the best for Cody? Oh, they fixed the extra life sleeves. I'll just go back to that, I think. Or I guess this Ravnica is pretty 5-color here. Go with the Ravnica sleeve today. And here we are. My first time drafting Cody. This is going to be a fun one. And it's my first draft of the new limited season. The May 2021 season. Let's get into this. Ooh, I'm super going to keep this. We have turn 2 Emergent Sequence, turn 3 Field Trip with a Leyline Invocation coming up. We've got the ability to ramp into that big spell here. We also have Cram Session to gain us some life in the early game. so that we don't just get absolutely aggroed out of it. Also, Emergent Sequence does create a creature out of the land that we grab, so we can block and trade with that. So that seems great. Easy Emergent Sequence this turn over the Cram Session. I think we grab... We already have Quandrix Campus, actually, for a blue source, so we have kind of every color we need. I think we just grab a Plains now for, like, Reconstruct History and stuff. We already have blue, green, red. We have 5 mana now. Go for a Field Trip. I can go for a Field Trip and attack for 2. Or I can Letter of Acceptance and Cram Session. I'd rather go for a Field Trip because I'd rather ramp it away that puts more lands on the field to make the Fractal even bigger. So let's attack for 2 and then cast a Field Trip. We have double blue, a red, and a white. Let's grab another green. And we have the mana to cast an Elemental Summoning, so that's probably the best lesson for us here. It's just the biggest creature, 1/4/4. Kelpie Guide will start things off for our opponent. There's a Cultivate as the draw. We are a mana away from the Leyline Invocation still. We did not draw into another basic here. So we do need to Cultivate or something. I'm not going to attack in with my Plains into the Kelpie Guide, because as much as I'd like to kill the Kelpie Guide, I would rather keep my Plains around. So I think I'm going to Letter of Acceptance and cast Cultivate here, so that we can just Leyline Invocation. Next turn. For a very big Fractal. Although, just to draw removal, it might be better to just cast this Elemental Summoning first and see if they do anything about that. There's a Field Trip of their own, grabbing a Forest, and we'll see what lesson they choose. Containment Breach to blow up our Letter of Acceptance. So they don't get the Pest token out of that? Yeah, that's super fine. We got more than enough mana now. There's Cody, though. We can't cast Cody or they'll kill Cody there. So let's, I suppose, cast the Leyline Invocation. I guess we could play Elemental Summoning and Cody, but then they just blow Cody up. So grabbing the Containment Breach actually did slow us down a lot here. If they didn't reveal a Containment Breach, this turn would really easily be Elemental Summoning and Cody. But because we know they have that, we'll just Leyline Invocation, poke them for 2. I like poking them for 2 more than the Cram Session, because we already have plays next turn anyway. We don't need to learn for another 4/4 or something like that. We unfortunately did not end up with a Fractal Summoning. If we did, we could get creatures even bigger than 4/4s out of our lessons, which would be quite good. Witherbloom Pledge Mage. So they have a 5/5 and a 2/2 now. Unfortunately not going to be casting that Containment Breach anytime soon. They're just like, this seems like a Cody deck. Seems suspicious to me. Alright, pretty easy Igneous Inspiration, so we can get Kelpie Guide out of the way, so our 7/7 can attack in without any risk of dying. Probably do that and grab some more 4/4s, start dumping out 4/4s every turn. Snakeskin Veil it is that turns it into a 3/3. We can also just put it back on top of their library, but either way, they have countered our Igneous Inspiration here, which is not good, because now we don't learn off of that. Hexproof till end of turn, so I can't bury it now if I let that resolve, but I'm going to let it resolve anyway, because I could bury in response to a double block, I suppose. But was really hoping to just get that main phase Igneous Inspiration off so we could grab whatever lesson we want. And cast it immediately, so we could even grab our Expanded Anatomy there. And by grabbing Expanded Anatomy, we would have had a 9/9 Vigilant attacker. So that's why I went for the main phase Igneous Inspiration. That would have been pretty fun. But it looks like the Burying Books to get the kill on Kelpie Guide is going to be too much for our opponent. And they are going to scoop him up there. That was a really solid game even without Cody, because we did get to ramp into that Leyline Invocation with tons of learn going on, grabbing a bunch of summonings, a bunch of solid lessons. So there was how the deck wins without Cody, even though it is heavily designed around Cody. Alright, here we are again. No green mana is very bad. That is what we really don't ever want to see here. I think we have to mulligan this for that reason. Alright, that is super keepable. Turn 3 Cody. I think we get rid of Letter of Acceptance here. I don't like that 2 of our lands come to play tapped here, so we can't turn 3 Cody. Actually, we could. Witherbloom Campus turn 1, Archway Commons turn 2, Island turn 3. Yeah, I think we get rid of Letter. Hopefully they don't have the immediate removal for Cody, because if they do, we don't get to do all the fun things. But even if they do, we have the Cram Sessions. We got Eureka Moment now to get some value there. Got some stuff going for us. Opponent is going to just plumb the Forbidden and draw a card here. So not really going off with this card. This is one of those cards you can draft around with a sort of combo-y Witherbloom strategy. There are your Magecraft cards that you gain a life whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, and then ones that make your opponents lose a life every time. So with stuff like that, this can become a kill spell late in the game in the right Witherbloom deck. So it looks like we're playing against Witherbloom and Silverquill, green, black, and white. Blood Researchers start things off, followed by a Sparring Regimen, which is really good here, because now the Blood Researcher gets to attack in. It gets a +1/+1 counter and untaps every time, so it's now a 3/3 Vigilance Menace, and then it'll be a 4/4 Vigilance Menace. That's a very big deal that we'll need to find a way to deal with. Hopefully, if I get really lucky off of Cody, we can grab our Igneous Inspiration here. When you're playing a Cody deck, it's important to remember that Cody doesn't allow you to cast sorceries at instant speed, so if you have a lot of sorceries in your deck like we do, we're going to have to use Cody just during our main phase here, so that if we hit an Igneous Inspiration, we can actually use it and kill the Blood Researcher. We hit a Field Trip though, so it looks like that won't happen, but we can grab some creatures off of Field Trip, which should be good. And we still draw some cards and get a land. We do have 2 mana up because we have the 1 mana from Cody and an island, so I could immediately cast an Environmental Sciences if I want to cast something right now, but I don't think I really do. I think I'd rather just grab some, like a big sorcery just to cast next turn, so I spin the wheel again. Because if we don't grab a 5 mana sorcery to cast next turn, we're just casting a 2 mana one and then grabbing a 1 mana card, so we just grab Academic Dispute. So we're going to have a lot of value here, but our opponent has a terrifying start, so it might not matter if we can't get any removal fast, and we don't have a ton of removal in this deck. We really have to dig for it with Cody. Defend the Campus would work, because this is going to be a 4/4 now. It's going to be a 5/5, so if we Elemental Summoning at 4 mana, we could hit Defend the Campus. Igneous Inspiration does not kill Blood Researcher anymore. Alright, well now we're all in on Defend the Campus. And we need to hit it like right now, or we're probably dead next turn, because that's going to attack as a 9/9. Pigment Storm doesn't even do enough now. Although if I cast Pigment Storm on Blood Researcher, then if I hit Igneous Inspiration or Defend the Campus, I can kill Blood Researcher, so I kind of think I have to do that. Because if I don't kill Blood Researcher right now, the odds of me dying next turn are astronomically high. I guess I have 2 Cram Sessions to gain a bunch of life. Yeah, because of the Cram Sessions, I can probably just Cody here If I don't hit defend the campus, then I'll just do a cram session. Oh my god, that's so good. That's so good. We immediately hit defend the campus. Was it literally right on top too? I think it was. That was incredibly lucky. Cast cram session here. We can't cast the letter of acceptance actually because it is a permanent card. It is an artifact permanent. And there's another blood research from our opponent, so it's going to be Pigment Storm time. Pigment Storm and spin the Cody wheel. Cody's just going to go off this game. I think any game where Cody gets to hit the board and doesn't die is likely to go in our favor. I mean, we almost got just stomped here by a Blood Researcher Sparring Regimen, but Cody finds a way when you're lucky. Ooh, solve the equation. That seems like a great one to hit. We can grab a large, like 5 mana instant or sorcery off of this. Oh, we can grab our Leyline Invocation. That's wonderful. Oh, that's so good. This deck is just functioning in this game. Just perfectly. I get another creature, then make our 4/4 6/6. Moldering Karok coming down, 3/3 trample lifelink. They do have environmental sciences, so they are gaining a couple life and grabbing a land. Go for our Leyline Invocation here. Of course, tapping the Cody so that the effect goes into play. Igneous Inspiration. This is evil. This is not a fair game of Magic. Now we'll grab Expanded Anatomy, because why not? At this point, we've got a million creatures left to cast in our hand. Demogoth Woe Eater. So it's a 7/6. It doesn't die until their next turn, so they can definitely block with it. Trade off with our 6/6. Just cast an Elemental Summoning off of Cody. Reconstruct. We just have everything. Instant, let's grab Defend the Campus to be safe, and then for a sorcery, I think let's grab another Leyline Invocation. I can actually just blow up their thing right now with Defend the Campus. That actually seems good, because then we get to keep our 6/6 and attack in with it this turn, put them to 4. See if this will just end it. Send in Cody as well. That will end this game. That was brutal. When Cody starts going off, Cody really just takes it away. So that is going to be 2-0 for the 5-color Cody deck. It's not actually 5-color. Our only black cards are the Cram Sessions, which we're just casting off of green mana. But I guess technically, because of the hybrid costs, we can pretend it's 5-color Cody. It's close enough. Yeah, those cheap learns with the expensive lessons are so good with Cody at just letting that all function, because then you just cast your 5-mana lesson, you spin the wheel and hit your cheaper learn card, and you just do it all again next turn. Just keep the wheels turning. Alright, here we are in round 3. We're on the play, although another no green mana means I think it's probably a mulligan. We do have that Cram Session here, and we have a Will coming out later. Emergent Sequence turn 2. We probably get rid of Reconstruct History here, because we don't want that till later in the game. And we're going to shuffle our library anyway, so it's not like it's going to be on bottom. Yeah, this seems solid to me. Turn to Emergent Sequence for a red source. definitely if we draw a white source, we're just gonna grab a red now. Opt from our opponent, scry 1, draw a card. So what does Will do? Make something an 0-2 till end of turn, or draws some cards. So we can just go for a lot of card draw here. Yeah, we get to cast Will next turn. I think I like just Eureka Momenting during their end step rather than poking them. Could poke them for 2 and cast a Cram Session to grab a creature lesson. But if they're not putting anything out yet, if they're like one of the slower Prismari decks that's going to try to hit 7 mana, I think we're good. Well, Eureka Moment will make sure we still have the mana to cast Will next turn. I guess not if we don't draw land. We will have to draw land next turn to do that. But it does replace the land they just killed. Alright, well that's not awesome. We are going to Environmental Sciences for a red source now to replace the one they just blew up. And that does give us the 5 mana for Will. Torrent Sculptor. Costs 2 more to target it with instants or sorceries, and it's a 6/6. That's really bad. I also don't have the 6th mana for Archivist, which I guess doesn't really matter because Archivist would not be that great here. It would just be a 4/5 to block the 6/6. This Torrent Sculptor is going to be a big deal. It's going to be very, very threatening. I can't just play Will now unless I just want to draw 2 cards, because if I play Will and I try to make that a 0/2, its ward ability will counter my effect. I don't know what to do here, honestly. I guess we kind of have to just draw some cards. We just play Will again later off a Reconstruct History. We just need to draw an out for this Torrent Sculptor really badly, and we only have like 1 in the deck, the Defend the Campus.
None of my strategies worked.
Opponent is very much going wide now. Cogwork Archivist will block a lot of that pretty well, so I kind of want to just dump that out. I guess Flame Scroll Celebrant does have a pump effect, so it will attack for 1,000,000 and it'll trade up into the Archivist. Do I just Pigment Storm the Flame Scroll Celebrant? I could Pigment Storm the Flame Scroll Celebrant and they just have the 6/6 and the 2/2, so I get hit for 8. I go down to 18 life. And then Cogwork Archivist is big enough to block the Spectacle Mage. Yeah, I think I want to just kill that Flame Scroll Celebrant. The pump effect on that is really threatening. Only 2 mana to give it +2/+0, so it only costs 4 to make it a 6-power creature. And trade up into the Archivist at the very least, and at best hit me for like 6. This is looking like one where we might just not get there here. Leyline Invocation makes a 6/6. If that would just make a 7/7, we could block Torrent Sculptor, so I don't think we want to cast it yet, because that could give us an out to the Torrent Sculptor. I think we cast Cogwork Archivist here so that we can block 4/4s and the 2/2 without losing a creature. Start chipping those away if they keep attacking with everybody. Although if they have another removal spell, that's really bad for us. Alright, this is some kind of combat trick, so they basically still have a removal spell, but I can't afford to not block here, because then I take 14. Arcane Subtraction. Okay, so it doesn't actually kill Archivist, that's not that bad. They do have a Fractal Summoning, which will make a pretty big creature with those treasure tokens they got out of the Stormkiln Artist. Fortunately, no 7th land still for Leyline Invocation, which is a big deal. I think that we can cultivate, and then we have 4 untapped mana. If we cultivate with 4 untapped mana, we can cast Overgrown Arch and Cram Session. That gains a good bit of life. I still don't want a Leyline Invocation for a 6/6. But we're at that point where we might die if we don't, but if we do, we're definitely going to die because we don't have a creature big enough to kill that and keep blocking other things. Let's just grab 2 forests, so that it's not possible for me to mess up the ordering there. Play a blocker and gain some life. So next turn I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 mana. I'm going to spend 6 on Leyline Invocation. So if I draw another land, Pest Summoning would be the best card to get, because then I get some 1/1s that gain life off of the chump blocks that they make. So we'll grab the one that's the best for just immediate play. If we draw any basic land next turn, we're just going to go Leyline Invocation, Pest Summoning. Just doing everything we can to hold on for dear life here. Alright, well, this is going to be one of those show me the money things. We're taking 10 on board here. This is rough. This is not good at all. Alright, yeah, they just had it there. Doesn't matter how we block. That'll do it. Not a ton to say on that one, just got kind of curved out a little better on by the Prismari deck. They didn't even curve out incredibly well. Didn't really do much till the Torrent Sculptor came down, but our deck was definitely just much too slow to compete with that stuff. But as you could see near the end there, we were still drawing a lot of cards and getting to the point where maybe we could play like a bigger creature than anything they had, but just definitely not fast enough to keep up with their start there. Definitely going to keep this one. We got that turn 2 emergent sequence as always, very important. Witherbloom Apprentice coming out from our opponent. We have 4 mana now. I can Letter of Acceptance and Overgrown Arch. That seems pretty good. Field Trip from our opponent. Drains us for a life and learns a lesson. Grabbing a Fractal Summoning for the late game. Well, we've got our 6 mana, so we could Leyline Invocation, but that would just be for a 5/5. Might still be worth it, though, at this point. Yeah, we're not doing much else, are we? We could Academic Dispute to make the Witherbloom Apprentice half the block, but then we just trade for the Mountain. Could learn for a 4/4 off of that, but yeah, let's just play the Leyline Invocation, I think. Should be the biggest creature on board. If they play anything as big as it, we can just Pigment Storm what they play and just start bashing them with our 5/5. They do have 5 mana, so they could cast a Witherbloom Pledge Mage. They do have a Professor of Zoomancy. Let's gain a life here. Another land is good. We're going to force Witherbloom Apprentice into a bad block here. And then probably play a 4/4. Yeah, I think we're actually probably attacking him with the mountain now because we don't have the double red to Pigment Storm the Professor of Zoomancy out of the way. So if we attack with the Fractal, they could block with the Professor of Zoomancy and Witherbloom Apprentice on it. It's actually probably worth it still. I'm actually going to send both in. We don't need the mountain mana anymore. Could double block the 5/5 if that's where they choose to block there. No, they're just going to take 5. Interesting. Alright. I'll take it, and let's get our 4/4 out. So they have 5 mana up and 6 cards in hand. We know one's a Fractal Summoning, but with only 5 mana, that would just make a 3/3. So don't really expect that. Promising Dusk Mage is the play. It's a 2/3. If they happen to put +1/+1 counters on it, it does a little more, but that's not super likely. Then a Scurrid Colony, if they get 8 lands, that'll be a 4/4. But for now, it's just a 2/2. They're going to send in with the Professor. I'll absolutely take it. I think I'm happy to race right now with an Overgrown Arch out and some bigger creatures than what they've got. Can start scrying with the Quandrix Campus. I can also sacrifice the Arch to play another 4/4. If I attack with a 5/5, what's their best block on a 5/5? They block with all 3. I only kill 2 of them, so I kill Dusk Mage Colony at the price of my 5/5. If I attack with the 4/4, they can block with a 2/3 and a 2/2, and I only kill one of those 2, which is not good for me. Definitely can't sacrifice the letter. It's my only red or white source right now, so we're not drawing a card here. I think we just attack with a 5/5. I have to block with everybody to kill it. Alright, they're just going to make the chump block. Again, because I have that Overgrown Arch, the only thing that really hits me is the Professor of Zoomancy, and if I'm under a lot of pressure, I could trade my 4/4 into that. So I don't think I need to hold the 5/5 back. Tenured Ink Caster, that might change things. If the counter goes onto Dusk Mage, then Dusk Mage does draw a card when it dies, but it also only turns into a 3/4, so my 4/4 can just eat it if it ever attacks. So I'd expect the counter goes onto the Professor. They're going to throw it on the Dusk Mage, okay. Oh, I guess, yeah, you don't have to be attacking with it to keep just draining life with this. If your Dusk Mage is just going to be able to block and draw a card anyway. Like, they don't have to send in an attack there, so that makes sense. Just throw the counter on the Dusk Mage, that way it's a better blocker, because it can draw them a card off blocks later. I'm going to go ahead and put a stop on my upkeep in case I want to scry again, which I might. Could sacrifice the Arch right now to play another 4/4 instead. I still like the Arch because it's blocking their 3/4 2/2s well. Yeah, I'm probably just not attacking with the 5/5 next turn. Do I want to draw blind? If I scry here, I don't get to cast anything. All I'm doing is scrying. But if I hit a land, I'm not doing anything either. Let's just draw blind. Alright. We have our white source. And I'm pretty sure I'm passing turn here now. Now that they have a 3/4 and a 2/2, they can block a 5/5 pretty well, especially because they just trade into the 3/4 and they draw a card off of that trade. I'm going to pass turn here, so we get to just gain life and scry. I do like sitting here with the campus out, because I get to scry once per turn. Oh. Well, that is not exactly what I thought I was doing, but it's a good thing to do here still. I was meaning to just gain the life there, but popping the arch is not the end of the world. Just upgrade it into a 4/4. Field trip, do I have 5 after that? I do. So I can field trip and still have 5 mana up. Get more lands out of the deck. Get another instant or sorcery. I can grab environmental sciences. So I can get my second red. Or I could just play like a pest summoning. Grab that environmental sciences. No attacks. Definitely a pretty big stalemate looking game here. This could be a Rise of Exodus from our opponent. That's going to be really brutal in a situation like this. Ooh, Pestilent Cauldron, also very good. This is good for the really grindy games like this one where we're going to be in a big stalemate, because this can turn every land that they draw into just a 1/1 pest off of its first ability. Just discard those lands. They can start milling us every turn every time they gain life, and they can just start drawing cards every turn by exiling stuff from our graveyard, so we can't even go for that late game like looping things with the Archivist to try to mill our opponent out before we get milled. So Pestilent Cauldron is going to be a big issue here. I do like dropping a Leyline Invocation. If I attack in with an 8/8, trade with 2 creatures, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They block with like these 3. Or they could block with just the 4/3 and the 4/4. Yeah, we trade with 2 creatures. So we'd clear the board out a little bit. Wait, I don't think I played a land this turn, so that was probably strictly worse than... Yeah, that was strictly worse. If I environmental scienced first, we'd have a 9/9 instead of an 8/8, and then they would have to make a triple block, but we'd still only trade for 2 of their creatures. But now they can't block our 8/8 with like a 7/7 and a 2/2 and still trade into it. Eureka Moment is the draw. Go for it. See what we hit. We do hit Rowan and Will. What does Will do on the ultimate? Exile 5 permanents, and its controller creates a 4/4. So we exile 5 of our lands and get 5 4/4s. If I play Will right now, I turn 1 creature into a 0/2 until our next turn. So we just turn Bookworm into a 0/2, then they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attackers, but against this field, they're not really attacking into Will. And Will would be at 8, so we'd be getting close to the ultimate. I think we're going to play Will here, and probably do the plus.
If the Prismari want refinement, I'll impress with perfection.
I don't think we're attacking in, though, because they have all those creatures, and getting to Will's ultimate would be pretty big. I don't really want to blow up the Bookworm, because then they can bring it back from their grave. I'd rather, like, Pigment Storm it. Pestilent Cauldron's, like, super sad for us. Oh, Zephyr Boots is disastrous. Zephyr Boots onto the Professor. They can hit Will right now, put him to 1. And they can just move those boots to whatever we don't target with Will's effect. So now we're getting 0 value out of Will, because Will's too low to even draw a card.
Let you hurt anyone else.
Yeah, that was about like the worst card we could have seen here. We can't do anything about that. No way to block here. Will just turns things into O2s. They just move the equipment to something else and kill Will. Will doesn't even have enough to draw 2 cards now. Yeah, Zephyr Boots does do a lot of work to close out games like this because we just don't have any reach here. So as soon as they kill Will, they just move on to start slapping our face. This is... Game's 100% over. They can exile the stuff from our grave with the Cauldron as well to prevent us from getting anywhere with Reconstruct History. We don't have anything in our deck that can come back from that one, so I'm just going to scoop it up there. Because if I don't concede that game, there's still like a 0% chance of victory, and it's going to take another like 10 minutes to die. So we'll move on to the next round in the interest of time. Generally try not to concede unless there's no chance of victory. I'm just 100% certain in that game there is no chance of victory at that point. I think definitely the Pestilent Cauldron was definitely the game changer there. Turned things from a stalemate into our opponent getting consistent value off the Cauldron. Very good there. That was a game where we did miss out on like a start from scratch. That would have been a good lesson to have in our deck for that game, so not picking that up during the draft may have cost us that game. I don't remember exactly what I took over the start from scratch, so I don't remember if it was worth it. But there was a pack somewhere during the draft where there was a start from scratch, which is a 3-mana lesson to destroy an artifact. That I picked something else over that, so I'll have to look back on that one, see if whatever I took over it has been doing a lot of work for us, or if the start for scratch would have been better for situations like that, so we could grab that and blow up a Pestilent Cauldron, or more importantly at the end of that game there, blow up the Zephyr Boots. Alright, definite keep. Any hand that's got the Cody, we're just going to roll with it. This hand has Cody and Will, which is pretty incredible. We even have the turn 6 Cogwork Archivist now. Turn 6 Leyline Invocation as well. I am going to cram Session turn 2. We know that we'll have 3 mana to cast Cody, but we're not going to have 3 mana to cast any of these. We need a 4th mana to start using Cody's ability, which is really important, so I'm just going to grab Environmental Sciences here. Quandrix Campus. If I play the Quandrix Campus right now, then we know we'll have 4 mana in the future for Cody's effect without having to cast Environmental Sciences to get it. But I could also just cast Cody right now, hope to top deck a basic land, then I can immediately start spinning the wheel with Cody using that effect. But if I use Cody's effect next turn, first of all, I have to draw a basic land to do it because I need 4 mana untapped. If I do that, the only thing I'm casting, because I can only cast an instant or sorcery off of it, is a 2 mana spell, so I just grab an Academic Dispute. Yeah, that seems not great. We're just going to Environmental Sciences here. Make sure that we have 6 mana when we use Cody's effect. So next turn we'll have 4 mana out, we'll play Cody. The turn after that we'll have 5 mana out. We can use Cody's effect to have the 5th mana. Yeah, that seems good. We'll play Cody here. Opponent's on mono green so far, 4 forests. This could be stuck on mana, it looks like definitely. Seeing an island from them now. And a Bayou Groff is the first play. Gonna play a 5-4 here. And we're just gonna roll into our 6 mana spell. So we can double spell here pretty well. Grab a Solve the Equation, which should be great. Now we just grab another like 6 mana spell here, where the biggest spell left in our deck is, which is another Leyline Invocation. So it gives us something big to cast with Cody again, to get another large cascade. Having just a 5-5 against the 5-4 isn't ideal, I'll be honest, but I think it's still better to start spinning the wheel with Cody as quickly as possible. Send in the 5-4. could take the trade here because they do have a Death Toucher to block my 5/5, but I don't think I want to because I do have a lot of spells that grab 4/4s. We do have 4 sorceries in the grave, so as soon as we play an instant, we can reconstruct history pretty well. Well, we don't have any instants yet. I think we just play another Leyline Invocation for a 6/6 now. And see what we hit before we go to combat, because we could hit Igneous Inspiration to blow up the Needlethorn Drake. Okay, now we can cram session. Grab a 4/4. Trade my 5/5 into the Needlethorn Drake, because now we have a 6/6 coming up. And the 6/6 can block the 5/4. We're going to have a bunch of 4/4s throughout this game now. As long as they don't kill Cody, I'm going to be spamming out multiple cards a turn so I can afford to make trades down into whatever they have. And if they ever do kill Cody, then I can play Cogwork Archivist, Rowan, Will, all that stuff. So they do have a big play, so we're trading big play for our 6/6. Which is not an ideal trade, but it's not the end of the world. We are going to cast Elemental Summoning now. See what Cody brings for us here. Come on, instant. Igneous Inspiration. Not an instant, but a good card nonetheless. We'll have to just do 3 to their face here. But that will grab us the 5 mana lesson for next turn. Or I suppose I could expand Anatomy to make that a 6/6 so it trades into Biograph. Still don't really want to trade for the Biograph. Take the 6 here, go down to 19. Whenever we're at the point where we have to cast permanents, we can also just hold Cody back for blocks and then just chump block. Witherbloom Pledge Mage. Might be soon. We do draw the Defend the Campus, which is good. See what we hit again here first. Field Trip is really nice. Grab a land, grab a lesson. 3/2 or make one of these bigger. Probably make one of these bigger at this point. Do have a Eureka Moment, so I've got an instant and sorcery engrave. I can grab Eureka Moment, Leyline Invocation if I reconstruct history, which is good. Would I rather reconstruct history or hold up a Defend the Campus here? I think we play it defensively for now, because I have 10 mana, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I do. So I can just hold up the blocks and Defend the Campus here. So I can kill both of their current creatures, and then next turn I can spend 4 to reconstruct history, and then use Cody on my Leyline Invocation. And then just get like a 10/10 and cast another spell, which should be great. Let's see what kind of trick they might have here. Looks like it goes through. Probably should have blocked the other way, because we would rather them have a trick to save the 5/5 than a trick to save the 6/5. Divide by 0. Throw Defend the Campus back in my hand, so they just hit for 5 here. Seems fine to me. We can just cast it next turn. But they do get to learn off of that. Grab a Fractal Summoning. That'll be pretty big, but not as big as our 10/10. They've got 5 extra mana after X, so 7 mana total, so they'll make a 5/5 when they cast that, at least. Grab our Eureka Moment, grab our Leyline Invocation. And we'll use that Leyline Invocation for a massive creature here. And a free Eureka Moment, although we're down to 14 cards in library. Still want to do it here. Definitely attack with the 4/4 since they are tapped out. Do have to discard a card. We'll discard Letter of Acceptance. We got more than enough mana here. Actually, I'll discard a Eureka Moment, I think. Down to 12 cards, I'm probably not going to want to keep drawing at this point. And I have 2 Eureka Moments. So these are all our permanents, so we can't cast any of these till Cody's gone, so we just have Expand Anatomy, Defend the Campus, and Eureka Moment here. Got another land. What do we have? Instants and sorceries for 3 or less now. We have Cultivate, Emergent Sequence, Academic Dispute. Academic Dispute would be pretty good to hit here. So I think I do like spinning the wheel on the Defend the Campus. Just kill the Pledge Mage because it's strictly better than the Fractal right now. Emergent Sequence. Not terrible either, although we are down to 10 cards. They have to make a chump block here, so they chump block the 10/10, takes 6. Down to 10 cards here. Yeah, let's just get as aggressive as we can. Push out even more creatures with this Emergent Sequence. Go down to pretty low card count in the library, but a ton of power on the board. And we still have another removal spell in here. We have 5 damage to something. This is our turn. We can scry now. I have nothing I can cast right now, so I might as well. Can't cast that. That is what I'm looking for. We'll draw into that. So I can't kill a Bookworm with that. If I attack with everybody, if they don't block the 10/10, they die. So they have to block the 10/10 and take 10. Yeah, we just attack all. If they like block here, they take 14. They're Archway Commons. They're down to 2 against all this. Hopefully that'll close it out here. Leyline Invocation, they do have 1 blocker, and it's quite a big blocker, but probably not enough here. Two more mana up at 2 life against 4 creatures. We'll see what they have. Mage Duel. There's a 1 mana way to deal with one of them, but there comes the concession from our opponent. So that'll lead us into 3-2 with my first ever Cody deck. Cody is an experience for sure. Cody's pretty insane. I don't think we have lost a game where we've drawn Cody, if I recall correctly. And we have won a game where we did not draw Cody, because just lesson, learn cards, all of that are so powerful. When you manage to draft enough of them. I think they have definitely gone up a lot in value since the very first time we were drafting this set. They were pretty underdrafted. But, you know, like this time the only environmental sciences I saw was my pack 1, pick 2, I think. So I'm glad we scooped that up. So I'm definitely going to keep this hand. We do have the cram session for an environmental sciences. We've got a will in the late game. Got some big stuff later. I am worried about the Prismari decks. The Prismari decks are always terrifying, but I'd rather play an Archway Commons or an environmental sciences here. Could play Archway Commons, and I hold up an Academic Dispute just for an instant speed learn if they play a creature. I like playing the Archway Commons here, because if I draw another land, I could potentially play Eureka Moment next turn. I guess I could do that either way, but... And they do play a creature, so I'll just learn here. I could discard a card from my hand if I really want to, or I can grab Elemental Summoning. Or Spirit Summoning. I think I'll just grab an Elemental Summoning for later. Let's see what we draw. Igneous Inspiration's pretty great. Do I want to kill a Spectacle Mage with that, or get my 4th mana ready? I think I want to kill a Spectacle Mage with that. Just chilling with our Elemental Summonings. Maelstrom Muse. Whenever that attacks, their next instant or sorcery costs 2 less to cast. Because it has 2 power. So if they attack with that, if they play a land and attack with that next turn, they could just Elemental Mastery us. I think Prismari is definitely the worst matchup for our deck here, because it's kind of slow, but it does do a really good job at like grinding out those attrition games. But the problem is against Prismari. Prismari have these big, massive, impactful spells that can be like 2 or 3 for ones all by themselves, like Elemental Mastery and Creative Outburst and that kind of stuff, and they can just hit them faster than we can start going off. So I do think this is our worst matchup, and I'm worried. Won't lie about that. Because if they just basic land into Elemental Mastery us, it may very well just be over. There's the basic land. See what's coming out here, main phase 2. Wherever they cast costs 2 less. Just a Pillar Drop Warden. Alright, my heart was beating. We've got time. We don't have to immediately face off against a million 4/4s. If I cast a Will... I'm not really doing anything with Will. I could draw some cards off of Will and then let them kill him. Which I guess is okay in this deck, because we have Reconstruct History, so we can just use Will as a slow draw spell, and then recast Will later in the game. If we play any creature on the ground, we're only stopping 1 damage. These 4/4 elementals can't block in the sky, and they can't attack through a 1/5. So I don't love casting Elemental Summoning here. I think I like Eureka Moment, so since that costs 4, I can Environmental Sciences and then Eureka Moment during their turn, which seems fine. Yeah, we're at 24 here. We just take 3. If they didn't cast a spell last turn, they don't have a 7 mana spell. They might have an 8 mana spell, like a Magma Opus. That would be pretty brutal. Or a Mizzix's Mastery Overloaded, but they don't have any instants or sorceries in graveyard for Mizzix's Mastery. Uh-oh. They cast a Rutha, so the next instant or sorcery they cast, they can spend 2 mana to return Rutha and cast it twice. Rutha can lead into some incredibly explosive plays. Prismari definitely the master of that. They don't even want to attack at this point. That is how convinced they are about to do something just brutal with their Rutha and their comboing stuff. Alright, well, I'm pretty scared. I think we solve the equation for a Fractal Summoning here, probably. But against blue-red, they likely have like just a bounce spell to deal with it, a Bury-in Books. Bury-in Books being very good in this format because of the amount of good tokens there are. Oh dear. Could play a 4/4 now. I mean, now they have a 1/5 and a 1/4, so we are stopping some damage by playing a 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I cultivate this turn, I have enough mana to cast Solve the Equation and not Fractal Summoning, Leyline Invocation next turn. So we don't have to solve the equation right now. Yeah, we'll just play a 4/4 and cultivate, I think. we don't have like anything in our deck that can counter stuff. So whatever big instant sorcery crazy effect they're going to go for here is going to go off. And that is what I am terrified of. I think this is also one of those reasons I don't remember if I said it earlier in this video or in another one, that negate type effects have been more powerful in this format than usual, just because Prismari is probably like the best, or at least in the top 2 colleges in draft, and they have some really explosive instants and sorceries, like multiple choice here. 5 mana for a 4/4, scry 1, draw a card, bounce one of our cards, especially when it bounces a token, is incredibly brutal. And we'll get the attack in this turn. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, we can solve the equation. Leyline Invocation here. Get an even bigger blocker out. Let's go for it. I think it's the best we've got. Just the biggest spell we've got in our deck. Definitely happy to have 2 of these. They've been really good in this deck. Opponent does have a really good Prismari deck here. Definitely incredibly well drafted too. Maelstrom Muse, Rutha, Pillar Drop Warden, Spectacle Mage, and Multiple Choice. Every card they've cast so far is a card I'm always incredibly happy to have in Prismari. Definitely nothing has seemed filler thus far, so super well drafted. And I should have saw that coming. With Pillar Drop Warden, they can just return an instant or sorcery from grave, so they can just return multiple choice and recast it there. So I'm definitely playing a bit rusty here, not playing super well today. But I don't think it's to the point where it would affect the outcome of any of these games. I think these are just Prismari decks that would destroy us regardless. Because they were even 1 mana off from being able to double multiple choice there. Which would have been bonkers. Multiple choice is also very good against our deck because all of our creatures are tokens. Not literally all of them, but most of them outside of Cody and the Cogwork Archivist. Well, there's the Cogwork Archivist. Speak of the devil. And we might actually get to block something one time. So I block there, I take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm dead on board here, so I have to hold up Defend the Campus, I think. I can also cast Will and turn one of their 4/4s into a 0/2. Then I block that, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I would rather blow up one of them than turn one of them into an 0/2, although playing Will might also convince them to attack Will instead of me. It's possible, I don't think it's likely though. I think Defend the Campus is better here because we can use it at instant speed, whereas Will we have to do sorcery speed. So they just like know what we're stopping. But here we might be able to get him out of nowhere with it, hopefully. But they could also just have like a negate to close this one out, seal the deal. Enthusiastic Study, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's lethal. It's already lethal without bouncing Rutha. Now it's just showboating a little bit. So that will end today's draft. That was a pretty fun one overall. Definitely my first time doing the Cody thing, and it was pretty fun to do. Definitely felt like we really had the deck for it. A lot of the powerful learns and lessons. Just some of those games we just did not Did not go off fast enough. Definitely don't have great interaction. That is the biggest downside with this deck that we've drafted. Would have liked to have some more removal, but I feel like we didn't see a ton. There was more removal that we did pick up. However, it's pretty hard to cast with like double black there. We did see a lot of expels. The white and 2 to exile a tapped creature. We probably should have been taking those more highly. And actually, Letter of Acceptance was underperforming a little bit for me. I think just our mana fixing off of just the land-based stuff like Cultivate, Emergent Sequence, and Environmental Sciences was often enough. So I could even see maybe having cut some letters for some expels if we had ended up drafting those expels, or if not those, I don't know, something else. Overgrown Arch wasn't insane or anything. But yeah, that was a really fun deck overall. It's really fun to try out the Cody thing, and it's always nice to do some really weird, different strategy than what you do normally during the drafts. So that will end today's draft, but we'll go ahead and check out our prize packs here. I believe this is just from the Mastery Tree, actually. This isn't actually our prize packs. I think I didn't accept defeat in the tournament yet. Yeah, that's what's going on. There. Claim our prize there, get our 1,000 gems and 2 packs out of this one, so we can open up these packs at the end of this video. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, stick around for more, do all of those good things that let the YouTube algorithm know that you're interested in the content and want to see more. And, as always, I will see you again soon for some more Magic Arena content. We, of course, have the Magic Arena Open on May 8th. That is the next big thing that I am gearing up for. Really hoping to do well in that sealed event, but either way, should have some fun with it. Might day 2, might not. We'll see what happens. I did day 2, the Kaldheim one, with my first sealed pool there, and so we'll see if we can't do the same here. I probably don't have time to do more than 2 attempts at day 1, so it's not at like a 55-60% win rate like the win rate that I have. It's not super likely that I'll day 2, but I will do my best to bring that to you. So as always, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.